Chestnuts roasting on an open fire, Jack Frost nipping at your nose, Yuletide carols being sung by a choir, and folks dressed up like Eskimos. Everybody knows.
Good morning, everyone. Lots going on as usual. Today is Wednesday, December 24th, 2025. Merry Christmas Eve. And so I love Christmas. I really enjoy Christmas. It's one of my favorite times of year. And so I've got some Christmas tabs today, too, talking about how some people can wish other people Merry Christmas, and other times it's Happy Holidays, or, joyous fete and things like that. So it's kind of, well, it's not weird because I understand that they're trying to destroy the culture that we have, but it is weird to experience it all firsthand, right? So there's that. I don't know about a Christmas show tomorrow. I'm going to try, but I have a lot. As you get older, sometimes you get more and more responsibilities. And so more and more responsibilities got piled on my plate yesterday, which is fine. No problems whatsoever. However, it may impact my ability to do my usual Christmas show. I'm hoping that it's going to all work out, but we'll see. If there's no show tomorrow, I'll probably post something like, I can't do it today or something like that. It may just be late. So we'll see, but we'll see. Hopefully there'll be a normal Christmas show and everything will work out just fine. Canada's two-tier justice system, and yes, we do have a two-tier justice system. Grok is going to be integrated into the Pentagon, and Gemini AI is already integrated into the Pentagon, and so that's super great, right? I remember definitely watching Terminator and The Matrix and thinking, yeah, this is absolutely no problem. The machines know what they're doing. Look at how great their robots are. Bob Rae is upset about Greenland. Trump is saying that he's gonna action this Greenland thing, and he's got Rubio there negotiating the deal. And I think that he's just gonna buy it. He's just gonna clean buy it, like the Louisiana Purchase. He's just gonna buy Greenland and annex Canada. We're not quite at the annex Canada part yet, but I'm sure before Christmas next year, we may know more about this annexation plan. We'll see. But Bob Rae is not very happy about it at all. And he's saying that Trump's mean and bad and such. Marco Rubio comes out swinging on free speech, and he says to the EU and Europe and the UK specifically, Ofcom, no, you can't do this. And if you do this, we are going to take action, legal action, all action to protect free speech of American companies on American soil. And so there's lots to get to. Let's get to it first. Inevitable West says Marco Rubio announces EU and British officials complicit in censoring free speech are now officially banned from entering the United States. They effed around and they found out. Yes. And so wild. The United States is not messing around. Marco Rubio says for far too long, ideologues in Europe have led organized efforts to coerce American platforms to punish American viewpoints they oppose. The Trump administration will no longer tolerate these egregious acts of extraterritorial censorship. Today, the State Department will take steps to bar leading figures of the global censorship industrial complex from entering the United States. We stand ready and willing to expand the list if others do not reverse course. Canada. I don't think I'm far off there. Jay, I added the Canada thing. Jay says, everything else was Marco Rubio. Jay Bhattacharya says, the Biden administration's war on free speech depended on foreign NGOs to impose its silicon curtain of digital censorship in the United States. Grateful to Secretary Rubio for dismantling this infrastructure. So it's interesting. Canada funds a lot of NGOs. Canada funds a lot of all of this dark stuff. And I think that it would be difficult to go in and fix the system, but very easy to offer an alternative to the system. And an alternative to the system is get rid of all of these deals, the deals about free speech and the digital censorship and all of that other stuff, because it doesn't make sense to have that kind of stuff. Get rid of the dairy cartels and things like that. Like if a political party said, we're going to dismantle the censorship complex that's been raised around all of these sacred cows, I think that would be a very popular stance to take. But in practice, look at how Trump has been treated while trying to execute his policies and things like that. He made big promises. I'm going to drain the swamp. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And there are a lot of big things that have been accomplished by Trump. The tariffs are massive. Trump is reimagining, reorganizing how the U.S. government is managed, top to bottom, and it's something to watch. So I'm not saying he hasn't done anything, but the push, I don't know that he's enshrined anything in laws. So they could undo, if the Democrats get control of the White House in the next session, they could undo a lot of what Trump does, and they have the media, the power of the media, and things like that. So if you do come in and you do start making very big changes, there's no guarantee, because you can't play like that. You have to do what you're going to do regardless of the guarantee. But it seems like it would be easy to undo. It seems like you would face a lot of headwinds. It seems like you would ask people to do things, people who you think that you should trust to be able to execute your orders. And then when you come back and find out that they haven't done it, and in fact, they've allowed the censorship to continue and get worse, how do you deal with that in a practical way when every office is like that? It's very, very difficult, I think. And so, again, I'm not saying it's impossible. You have to act like it is possible. And then if you find that out, you replace those people and then you get it done. But you're time limited. I mean, look at, again, Trump is a good example. And
Add one more
I think
thing
that
on
he's
the online
genuinely
safety.
tried. I think he's genuinely tried. And I think that he's been stifled by people who are backstabbers, people who represented themselves as one thing and actually were something else. So I think that there's a lot to it, why this isn't changing as quickly as need be, because the longer they're allowed to continue with their bad policies, the more entrenched those policies get. So they're running the clock out for Trump. Basically, they're trying to minimize his impact by wasting time until he's out, and then he won't be able to come back. So here is the Undersecretary State Sarah, and she's Sarah Rogers, and she is sharing, I think this is her, this is an announcement she's making on, she says, today the United States issues sanctions reinforcing the red line I invoked on GB News, namely extraterritorial censorship of Americans. Today's sanctions target the censorship NGO ecosystem. So I wonder how long before Canada's got sanctions on people who are trying to censor everybody. Here we go.
Add one more thing on the Online Safety Act, and I emphasized this earlier, but I want to say it again. It's misguided and unfortunate to apply that law in Britain, but applying that law extraterritorially, which means applying it to speech that has nothing to do with Britain, does not occur in Britain, is on American platforms by American users on American political issues, purporting to censor Americans in America is a deal breaker. It is a non-starter. It is a red line. And that's what Ofcom has tried to do with the Online Safety Act, and that's one reason the American government is concerned.
Okay, but will your government then take legal action against Ofcom if they try and overreach in the way you've described?
Well, there's already formal action proposed. There is a bill before the House called the Granite Act that would amend an existing statute to clarify that as a matter of American public policy, any penalties imposed by Ofcom are unenforceable against American companies. So our legislature will likely consider that, and will certainly consider other options if indeed the British government insists upon trying to nullify the First Amendment on American soil with respect to American companies.
So there you go, pretty clear about that. And the moves are interesting. It seems like the Trump administration is trying to protect free speech. So we'll see. Gunther says Trump admin bans 5 foreign censorship advocates from the United States. Marco Rubio hits Thierry Breton, an ex-EU commissioner who targeted Elon Musk. Imran Ahmed and 3 others to face deportation. State Department says censorship is unwelcome here. And here's a little bit more from the Telegraph. Imran Ahmed, the chief executive of the Center for Countering Digital Hate, faces deportation, and Claire Melford, who headed the Global Disinformation Index, will have her U.S. visa revoked. So they're not joking around. It's a big deal. Here is Marine Le Pen, who is not allowed to run for president of France anymore for reasons. And she's being accused of Islamophobia after detailing her plan to crack down on Islamic terrorism by shutting down mosques and deporting imams who preach jihad, holy war. Do you support her policies against Islam? Yes or no? So they're saying this is quite Islamophobic, and this follows the model that I've been talking about for quite a while. If you have a legitimate criticism, if you are a person who's running for France, like the leadership of France, or was running for the leadership of France, is involved in that world, and you talk about policy such as these things, we're going to shut down mosques and we are going to crack down on Islamic terrorism, blah, blah, blah. These are policy positions. This is not, I don't think this is politically charged speech or hate speech or anything like that. But they'll say, instead of these legitimate criticisms that you've got and are complaining about, we'll talk about them and we'll figure out how to minimize them or fix them or something like that. And I don't think there is, but if you could talk about a criticism, that would be the response. But instead, the response is, that's quite Islamophobic of you, madam, right? Free speech, what free speech? You need to fall in line with the EU definition of Islamophobe. And, you're quite close. So that's scary, and it's not appropriate. And it is definitely the direction we're being forced down. Andrew Lawton says C9 was just the tip of the iceberg. So there is a Hill Times article talking about how Ottawa is set to revive the online harms legislation in 2026, according to a government source. And yes, of course. And if I click into this article, it's paywalled, so there's no extra information clicking into it for you. So apologies about that. But yeah, I'm not surprised by any of this. Their whole plan depends on censorship. So I'm interested in how the United States is going to push back against that, because the censorship only goes one way. It's not. There was a guy who was arrested, and I didn't tag it, I guess, but there was a guy who was arrested in England for posting something online, and he was arrested, et cetera, and they'll ignore certain people and their hate speech, but not other people and their hate speech. So if you're a right-winger who says, this invasion is intolerable, that's hate speech. But if you are saying free Palestine or from the river to the sea or something like that, not hate speech, right? And so you see the difference. There's clear preference from the government, and there is a clear difference that the police are discerning as well. They're not arresting some people, and they're arresting other people for claimed hate speech. But again, it's very subjective. Chris says, let me get this straight. A pro-Palestine convoy shouting F the Jews and do other horrible things in a megaphone, no charges. Chanting death to Jews, no charges. Quickly deleted post about asylum hotels, that's prison. Oh, that's what it was. It was something about take out the asylum hotels or something like that. It was a little worse. I think he was like burn down the asylum hotels. And people were saying, well, that's inciting violence. And fair argument. It's inciting violence. I would not incite violence. I would say politically we need to remove these invaders, and I think that we do have the political tools. I think the laws exist. I don't think we need to burn down hotels or be violent in any way. But they'll saying that we should remove these people, that's violence too. And so you can't win for trying. Anyway, quickly deleted post about asylum hotels, that's prison, a blatant two-tier justice system. So no charges over Bob Vilan's IDF chants at Glastonbury. And so I remember playing the track, and people were saying, well, that's hate speech. And again, two-tier system. They're not interested in prosecuting certain groups. They want that to destabilize. When you look at the history of protest in modern Canada, you can draw a direct line. It's the same protest from the pro-Palestinians that have been protesting for the last 2.5-3 years. Before that, it was Black Lives Matter. Before that, it was the rail blockades. And the Black Lives Matter and the Freedom Convoy protests were kind of overlapping, but the Black Lives Matter was the state-sanctioned one. Those guys could march even though there were lockdown orders in place. Protest was a protected right. You're allowed to protest. So, these people are allowed to gather and protest, and that's not a super spreader event or anything like that. And the government turned a blind eye to that lawlessness. They were allowed to tear down statues, and they were allowed to do all sorts of other stuff. And then before that, it was the rail blockades. And there are police officers whose job it is to police the rail lines. When I was a child, we used to put pennies on the tracks, and the trains would come right by my cottage, like 10 feet from my cottage, be sleeping, and you'd feel the train rumble by. And then we'd go and collect the smushed pennies. And we had one day we saw a truck driving down the track, like a rail truck with a rail wheels, right? Like it was a rail truck. And the guy got out and yelled at us. He said, "You could derail a train, kids." And I didn't really believe him. But I found out later that, yeah, you could derail a train. But we got yelled at. He was like, "I could charge you kids, like, don't you dare do this anymore. Where do you live?" And we were all like, "We live in Guelph." And because we didn't want to tell them that the cottage, like we could see the cottage, because we didn't want to get yelled at by our parents, because we had a healthy fear of our parents back then. And so it used to be taken seriously. And then all of a sudden, First Nations are putting flaming debris on active rail tracks, and people are like, police officers are standing there and turning a blind eye. This was not a mistake. They were told, or they'd been directed to allow this to happen. And it's the same up to now. It's meant to destabilize our society. That's the point. That's why it's being allowed. I digress. Here is, let's talk about Skynet, because they're trying to, pretty soon, everybody in everything's going to be AI. Everything. The dead internet theory is true, I think. Chris says Grok to be integrated with the Pentagon's AI platform, Department of Education, to garnish wages for student debt. And so, yeah, that's interesting. Here's just a bit of the article. And it talks about how Gemini is already in use. The U.S. policies part of this newsletter thing says the Pentagon has partnered with Elon Musk's xAI to integrate its Grok family of generative AI chatbots into the military's Gen AI Mil platform, set for early 2026 rollout. The models will enable secure handling of controlled unclassified information for Department of Defense personnel, providing real-time insights from the X platform. Gen AI.mil, launched earlier this month with Google's Gemini for Government, serves as a central hub for AI tools across Pentagon desktops and military installations worldwide. The partnership builds on summer contacts awarded to xAI, Google, Anthropic, and OpenAI, each up to $200 million to develop military AI capabilities. xAI described the collaboration as long-term, offering government-optimized models for operational workloads. AI ranks among 6 critical Pentagon technologies, alongside quantum computing and hypersonic weapons. So there's all sorts of crazy, crazy things. I just find it interesting that people aren't interested in the fact that Elon Musk and a lot of these people who are deeply integrated, Bill Gates, with all this AI and computer technology and modernizing use of AI across the consumer market. It seems like what I was talking about the other day. The government wants mass control. They want us to go in this direction. So they're going to hand their technology. Imagine what military level AI tech looks like compared to consumer level AI tech that just your average me and you can have for $100 a month or whatever it is, right? It's wild. I would bet wildly different, or more sophisticated, better somehow. And so it is interesting to me that we've got this structure being built and nobody seems really worried about it, despite all of the warnings we've got in pop culture. And not to say Terminator's real or that the Matrix is real, but those warnings wrapped in Arnold Schwarzenegger becoming a crazy robot who's out to kill people, and the machines versus humans and AI, and we don't know who struck first, the machines or us. Are we going to let it get out of control before we realize the error of what we're doing? Right? Like, how dumb are we? My gosh. Sophie is responding. Alex Newman reveals the truth. Oh, this is the Agenda 2030 stuff. So basically, they're just saying, once you look past the marketing slogans that are kind of warm and fuzzy, you realize that this is actually a blank check for totalitarian global control. So all of the 2030 Agenda SDGs are built for a new world order global control network that is, again, being built up around us, and we're handing the keys over to Elon Musk's AI. And that's weird. That's a weird thing. Adnan says, "Dear citizens, there's been a coup in all the countries of the Western world. Our countries are not being run by the people who we elected. They're being run by globalist organizations, the WEF, the WHO, the United Nations, and assorted globalist billionaires, the Aga Khan, a whole bunch of people in England. They don't have our interests at heart. Wake up." And I think that that's true, and I've been saying that for a while. But here's a little bit more. This is a video talking about the coordinated, planned collapse of Canada and England and Australia, the old colony, if you will, the British colonies. So here's just a little bit of this. Oh, I don't know if it's too fast. Hold on. It's not.
This is Canada, the United Kingdom, and Australia. 3 nations spread across 3 different continents. But despite the distance, one alarming truth connects them all. They are collapsing in exactly the same way. And now, the symptoms are impossible to ignore. Let's begin where the cracks are turning into a full-blown collapse. Canada. In Canada today, the average family can't afford a home in their own country. Home ownership has crashed 31% in a single generation. Compounding this issue, foreign buyers now hold a significant stake in the Canadian property market, owning up to 13% of it, more than at any point in history. But Canada isn't alone. In Britain, the foundation of the middle class has been gutted. Manufacturing jobs gone, down 46% since 1990. And what did families get in return? The highest tax burden since World War II. All while public services fell apart. But this isn't just a British problem. Across the world, Australia is living the same nightmare, only deeper. There, a quiet takeover is underway. Foreign corporations now control 80% of the country's critical resources. And the dream of home ownership? Dead on arrival. Housing prices have soared by 500%, while wages crawled just 80%. Young Australians are being priced out of their future in their own country. And this pattern across continents, across governments, is no accident. This isn't just failure. It's not bad luck. It's called managed decline, and it's happening by design.
Yep, sure is. And it is our responsibility to stop it, or it will continue. It is like realizing you're the bank manager and your bank is being robbed. What do you do now, right? Call the police. The police are here and they don't believe the bank is being robbed. They think you're kind of crazy. So they're hanging out with the robbers who are dressed up like police officers because the real robbers are downstairs who are also dressed up like police officers robbing the bank, continuing to rob the bank. And they want your job, the job of the bank manager, or something to that effect. Close enough analogy. Greg says, according to the United Nations, global governance spaces include Bilderberg, WEF, IMF, International Monetary Fund, World Bank, Trilateral Commission, Club of Rome. The list goes on and on. Add in the NGOs and the foundations that fund and implement the programs that comprise the various global agendas. Yep. And so we're in a situation where, again, people refuse to even look at the state of play. They refuse to look at the game. They think we're playing one game. We are not. We're playing another game. It's the difference between chess and Go. Sure, you're sitting down at a table and you're moving pieces on the board, but that's the end of the similarities. There's a lot of nuance to Go, and if you try to explain it to a chess player, they're not gonna get it right away. It'll take a while, if they believe you at all.